Hi guys, tonight, we travel back into one of the quietest corners of the ancient world. There is no rush here. No loud voices. No sudden movement. Only the gentle sound of the Nile River as it slips through the darkness, carrying cool water between fields that have rested through another warm day. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the night air brushing softly across your face. The desert has finally released some of the day's heat. The sky stretches farther than words can easily describe. Thousands of stars shine above the broad river, reflected like tiny lanterns upon the calm surface below. A slow breeze moves through rows of tall reeds growing near the water's edge. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls once before falling silent again. A fishing boat rocks gently against a wooden post. Nothing feels hurried. Nothing demands attention. The world seems content simply to exist. This is ancient Egypt, not during the rise of a great king or the building of a famous pyramid, but during one of the countless ordinary nights that quietly passed across many centuries. Most people who lived here would never become part of written history. Their names have disappeared. Their footsteps faded long ago. Yet it was their ordinary lives that allowed Egypt to remain steady for generation after generation. History often remembers rulers. But kingdoms survive because farmers wake before sunrise. Because bakers prepare bread while the stars are still visible. Because fishermen untangle their nets. Because scribes sharpen their reed pens. Because builders lift another stone. Because families continue the same familiar routines day after day. Tonight, we follow those quiet routines. We leave behind the stories of battles and royal ceremonies. Instead, we walk dusty roads. We sit beside cooking fires. We wait beside the Nile as dawn slowly approaches. The ancient world becomes peaceful when viewed through the eyes of ordinary people. Long before sunrise, many villages remain wrapped in darkness. Small mud brick homes stand close together, their flat roofs blending softly into the shadows. The walls still hold some warmth from yesterday's sun. Inside one simple house, an elderly woman wakes before anyone else. She has followed nearly the same morning routine for more years than she can remember. Without speaking, she rises carefully from a woven reed mat. The house is quiet. Children continue sleeping nearby. Their slow breathing fills the little room. A clay lamp still glows with a tiny flame, giving just enough light to move without stumbling. She kneels beside the small hearth. Ash from last night's fire waits patiently beneath a layer of gray dust. With practiced hands, she places dry reeds between small pieces of wood. A gentle breath. A tiny spark. Soon a warm orange light begins to grow. The first smell of smoke slowly fills the room. Outside, another household begins waking. Then another. Then another. Across the village, dozens of nearly identical mornings quietly unfold. No one needs to announce what must be done. Everyone already knows. These routines have been learned since childhood. Parents watched grandparents. Children watched parents. The rhythm rarely changes. Soon the sound of grinding stones begins. Women kneel over flat grinding slabs, slowly crushing grain into soft flour. It is patient work. The heavy stone moves forward. Then back. Forward again. Back again. The sound is gentle. Stone against grain. Again and again. Hour after hour. The flour gathers little by little. Bread does not appear quickly. Every loaf begins with steady hands. The smell of fresh grain slowly mixes with the scent of smoke. Water is added. The dough is worked patiently. Nothing is wasted. Every handful matters. By the time the eastern sky begins showing the faintest hint of blue, the village has almost completely awakened. Doors made from woven reeds open one after another. People step outside wearing simple linen clothing. Many carry sandals in one hand, waiting until they reach rougher ground before putting them on. The earth beneath their feet still feels cool. Soon it will become warm. Later, almost too hot to touch. But for now, the morning is gentle. A young farmer walks toward the river carrying a wooden yoke across his shoulders. 2 empty baskets hang from either side. He moves without hurry. He has walked this same path thousands of times. The dusty road curves between gardens where onions, beans, and herbs quietly grow. Palm trees sway above him. The leaves whisper softly whenever the breeze passes. As more people leave their homes, greetings remain simple. A small nod. A quiet smile. A few familiar words. The day has only just begun. There will be plenty of work before the sun reaches its highest point. Farther down the path, fishermen prepare their narrow boats. Their nets lie in neat bundles beside smooth wooden oars. One man carefully checks every knot. A broken section could mean fewer fish later. Repairing the net now saves time tomorrow. He works slowly. There is no reason to rush. The Nile has followed its course for countless generations. It will still be flowing when morning arrives. Nearby, another fisherman unties his boat. The rope slides softly against worn wood. He pushes away from shore with one steady movement. Small circles spread across the water. The river accepts him quietly. Mist still hangs above the surface. The rising sun has not yet burned it away. Everything appears softened. Even distant trees seem wrapped inside a peaceful dream. The boat glides almost silently. Only the gentle splash of the paddle interrupts the stillness. Along the riverbank, birds search the wet ground for insects. Some stand perfectly still. Others step carefully through shallow water. Their reflections shimmer below them. The Nile is more than a river. It is the quiet heartbeat of the entire land. Its yearly floods leave rich dark soil. Its waters feed crops. Its fish feed families. Its calm current carries boats filled with grain, stone, pottery, wood, and news from distant villages. Without the Nile, Egypt would simply become another stretch of endless desert. With it, life continues. Generation after generation. The first sunlight finally reaches the tops of the palm trees. Golden light spreads slowly across the fields. Farmers begin working almost immediately. Wooden hoes press into moist earth. Seeds are scattered by careful hands. Oxen move steadily through prepared fields, pulling simple plows that scratch narrow lines across the rich black soil. The work is not easy. Even during the cooler hours, sweat slowly forms beneath linen clothing. Muscles already remember yesterday's labor. And the day before that. And the season before. Yet there is comfort in familiar effort. Each movement has purpose. Each task belongs to a larger rhythm shared by everyone. No single farmer controls the river. No single family controls the harvest. The community depends upon many hands working together. Perhaps this is one quiet reason Egypt remained steady for so many centuries. Order was not built only inside palaces. It lived in ordinary mornings. It lived in shared routines. It lived wherever people trusted that tomorrow would begin much like today. As the sun climbs a little higher, warmth slowly spreads across the fields. The cool breeze begins to fade. Dust rises beneath careful footsteps. Birdsong becomes less frequent. Workers pause only long enough to drink cool river water carried in clay jars. Soon the village will become filled with the comforting smell of fresh bread baking in small ovens. Children will begin carrying water. Merchants will open their workshops. Scribes will unroll smooth sheets of papyrus. Builders will gather their tools before another long day beneath the bright Egyptian sky. And without anyone noticing it, another ordinary day will quietly help hold together one of history's longest-lasting civilizations. The light continues to spread slowly across the land. It does not arrive all at once. Instead, it gently settles over the river, over the fields, and over the quiet roofs of mud brick homes. The first cool hours of morning begin to slip away. The warmth of the sun grows stronger with every passing moment. For the people of ancient Egypt, this change is familiar. No one stops to admire it for very long. There is simply too much to do. The village has fully awakened now. Soft voices drift through narrow paths between houses. Clay jars are carried from doorways toward the river. Children, still rubbing sleep from their eyes, follow behind their parents with baskets almost as large as themselves. A little dust rises beneath every step. The smell of fresh bread fills the morning air. Near one small oven, a young baker lifts round loaves with a smooth wooden paddle. The crust has turned a soft golden brown. Steam escapes through tiny cracks as each loaf is placed inside a woven basket lined with clean linen. He has baked bread almost every morning since he was old enough to lift a sack of grain. His father did the same. His grandfather before him. The rhythm of making bread has become part of his hands. He hardly needs to think about each movement. Water. Flour. A little salt. Patient hands. Warm fire. Time. Nothing more. Nearby, an older woman grinds dried herbs with a smooth stone. Their gentle scent mixes with the smoke drifting from nearby ovens. Another family prepares onions, beans, and fresh greens gathered from a small garden beside their home. Breakfast is simple. A piece of bread. Perhaps some vegetables. Sometimes dried fish. A few dates when they are available. The meal is quiet. No one expects a great feast at the beginning of an ordinary day. Food is meant to prepare the body for work. It is enough. After eating, people return to their familiar tasks without complaint. The streets grow busier. Donkeys carry bundles of reeds toward workshops. Goats wander slowly between walls, watched carefully by children. Dogs stretch in the morning sun before finding a patch of shade where they will spend much of the day. Nothing feels hurried. Even the busiest moments seem wrapped in patience. The village understands its own rhythm. Far beyond the houses, the wide fields have become alive with movement. Farmers bend low over the rich soil left by the Nile's floods. The earth is dark and soft beneath their feet. It carries the memory of the river. A young man presses seeds carefully into shallow rows. His hands move with quiet confidence. He does not scatter them carelessly. Every seed matters. Every handful represents hope for months still to come. Beside him, his younger sister carries water in a heavy clay jar balanced upon her shoulder. The jar feels heavier with each step. Her sandals leave clear marks in the damp earth. She says very little. The morning work allows little room for conversation. Instead, the sounds around them become their companions. The distant splash of water. The rustle of reeds. The steady breathing of oxen. The scrape of wooden tools against the ground. A soft breeze passing through tall grasses. These simple sounds repeat hour after hour. They become almost like music. A calm music that asks for nothing except steady effort. Farther along the riverbank, fishermen begin lifting their first nets. Water drips quietly through woven fibers. Silverfish catch the sunlight as they twist gently inside the net. Some are large enough for several family meals. Others will be traded later in the market. One fisherman smiles quietly. Not because the catch is remarkable. Simply because it is enough. Enough is often the greatest comfort. The Nile rarely gives everything. But through many seasons, it gives enough. This quiet balance teaches patience. No one can command the river. They can only learn its habits, its seasons, its moods. Every year the floods arrive. Every year the waters slowly retreat. Every year the fields awaken again. The people have learned to trust this ancient rhythm. Trust is one of the invisible foundations of order. When people believe tomorrow will arrive much like today, fear becomes smaller. Routine becomes stronger. As the morning grows older, another kind of work begins inside a nearby administrative building. The building is simple compared to temples or palaces. Its walls are thick enough to keep some of the heat outside. Small windows allow narrow beams of sunlight to enter. Inside, several scribes sit cross-legged upon woven mats. Each holds a carefully cut reed pen. Tiny jars of black and red ink rest beside smooth sheets of papyrus. The room is almost silent. Only the soft scratching of reeds across papyrus breaks the stillness. Each mark is placed with great care. A record of grain. A count of livestock. The arrival of supplies. The names of workers. The amount of bread distributed. Nothing appears dramatic. Nothing seems especially important on its own. Yet these quiet records help keep the kingdom steady. One careful line of writing today may prevent confusion many weeks later. The scribe understands this. His work is not heavy like lifting stone. It is not hot like working in open fields. But it demands patience of another kind. His back grows stiff from sitting. His eyes grow tired from studying tiny signs. His fingers become stained with ink. Even quiet work leaves its own kind of exhaustion. Occasionally another worker enters carrying fresh information. The scribe listens. He nods. He writes. Then silence returns once more. Outside, the sun climbs higher. Shadows become shorter. The warmth settles over every roof and every road. The village begins moving more slowly now. People naturally adjust to the growing heat. No one wastes unnecessary movement. Every step is measured. Every task follows the easiest path. Near a cluster of workshops, craftsmen begin another long day. One shapes wet clay upon a simple wheel. His hands rise gently along the spinning surface. A bowl slowly appears. Not all at once. Just a little with each careful touch. The clay responds to patience. Too much force would ruin it. Nearby, another artisan smooths the surface of a storage jar using a polished stone. Tiny circles. Again. 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 Hours pass almost unnoticed while repeating these small movements. Elsewhere, carpenters work with wood brought from distant places along the river. Good timber is precious. Every piece is measured carefully before cutting. Nothing is thrown away if it can still be used. Small scraps become handles. Thin pieces become pegs. Larger boards become furniture, doors, or boat repairs. The scent of fresh cut wood drifts through the workshop. It mixes with warm dust carried by the wind. The air grows heavier as noon approaches. Workers wipe sweat from their foreheads with simple linen cloths. Their clothing clings to their skin. The desert sun asks much from every person. Even those resting in the shade feel its quiet weight. Children notice it too. Their games become slower. Laughter softens. Many retreat beneath date palms where cooler shadows stretch across the ground. An old man sits there already. His work has become lighter with age. His hands still tell stories. Thick skin. Old scars. Strong fingers shaped by decades of labor. Young children gather nearby. They have heard many of his stories before. Yet they enjoy hearing them again. He speaks softly. Not of great battles. Not of famous kings. Instead, he remembers floods that came early. Harvests that filled every granary. Long journeys by boat beneath peaceful skies. Friends who worked beside him when they were all young. Simple memories. Ordinary memories. These are the stories that quietly bind generations together. The children listen while tracing lines in the dust with small sticks. The old man's voice rises and falls as gently as the river itself. No one interrupts him. Time seems to move more slowly beneath the shade. Beyond the village, a narrow canal carries fresh water into nearby fields. Several workers inspect its banks. Small cracks are repaired before they become larger. Loose mud is packed firmly into place. Reeds growing too thick are carefully cut away. This work receives little attention. Few songs are written about irrigation. Yet canals are among the quiet guardians of Egypt's order. Without them, fields would dry. Harvests would shrink. Families would worry. Instead, careful hands maintain them season after season. One repair today may protect many harvests in the future. Most people never think about such work once it has been finished. That is often the nature of peaceful order. It becomes almost invisible. People notice only when it disappears. For centuries, thousands upon thousands of ordinary workers quietly prevented that disappearance. They woke before sunrise. They repaired walls. They cleaned canals. They counted grain. They baked bread. They caught fish. They carried water. Each task appeared small. Together, they formed something remarkably strong. The sun continues its slow climb toward the highest point in the sky. The warmth grows deeper. The air becomes still. Even the birds seem quieter now. Across the fields and villages of Egypt, work continues with steady hands, familiar routines, and patient hearts, as another peaceful day settles gently over the land. By the time the sun reaches its highest place in the sky, the light has changed once again. The soft colors of morning have disappeared beneath a bright white glow that seems to rest over every field, every road, and every quiet village. The shadows have become short and narrow. The air itself feels slower, as though even the wind has decided to rest for a little while. The heat is now impossible to ignore. It settles gently across the shoulders of every farmer, every builder, every merchant, and every child walking beside the river. The stones beneath their sandals grow warm. The mud brick walls hold the sun's warmth. Even the wooden handles of tools begin to feel hot beneath steady hands. Yet this is nothing unusual. The people of Egypt have known this feeling since childhood. They understand that the hottest hours ask for patience rather than speed. In the fields, work continues, but at a quieter pace. A farmer pauses beside a narrow irrigation channel. He kneels carefully, scoops a little water into his hands, and lets it run slowly across the back of his neck. The coolness lasts only a few moments before the warmth returns, but those few moments are enough. Nearby, two oxen stand beneath a simple shelter made from reeds and wooden poles. Their sides rise and fall with slow, heavy breaths. Their ears flick gently at small insects drifting through the still air. A young boy brings them water in a broad clay bowl. He moves carefully, trying not to spill too much with each step. The animals lower their heads without hurry. The sound of drinking is quiet, almost peaceful. The boy rests in the shade for a few minutes after they finish. He leans against one of the wooden posts and closes his eyes. Not to sleep, only to enjoy the brief coolness before returning to his work. Across the fields, many others are doing much the same. Some sit beneath date palms. Others rest beside stacks of harvested reeds. A few simply stand in the narrow shadow cast by a wall, grateful for even the smallest shelter from the midday sun. No one speaks very loudly. The heat encourages silence. Conversations become softer. Movements become slower. Even laughter feels quieter beneath such a brilliant sky. Near the village, smoke continues to rise from cooking fires. The morning's bread has already been shared, but another meal is being prepared. A woman stirs a clay pot hanging above glowing coals. Inside, beans simmer slowly with onions and herbs. The smell drifts through the narrow streets. Warm, earthy, comforting. Beside her, another woman crushes garlic with a smooth stone. The steady tapping joins the many familiar sounds of the village. A child carries a basket of fresh dates from a nearby palm grove. Their skin shines softly in the afternoon light. The basket is heavier than it looks. He carries it with both hands, stopping once or twice to shift its weight before continuing toward home. Inside another house, several children sit on woven mats while an elderly grandmother repairs a linen garment. Her fingers move with remarkable steadiness despite their age. The thread passes through the cloth again and again. Each stitch is nearly identical to the last. The children watch quietly for a while before one of them asks a question about the symbols painted on a small storage jar standing nearby. The grandmother smiles gently. She explains that every mark has meaning. Some tell who owns the jar. Some show what is kept inside. Others help remember where something should be carried. The children listen carefully. Long before many of them learn to read, they begin to understand that signs and symbols help keep life organized. Even simple objects have their place. Even simple markings carry purpose. Outside, the narrow streets remain busy, though never crowded in a frantic way. Merchants arrange their goods beneath woven awnings that soften the sunlight. Clay bowls, linen cloth, bundles of papyrus, simple wooden tools, baskets woven from reeds, jars of oil, dried fish, fresh vegetables gathered that very morning. People stop to look. They ask quiet questions. A little trading takes place. No one appears rushed. The pace of the day belongs to the heat itself. A merchant carefully weighs grain using a balance made from wood. The two sides move gently until they rest evenly. Only then does he nod with quiet satisfaction. Fair measures matter. Trust grows slowly. It is built through countless ordinary exchanges. When people know that bread weighs what it should weigh, and grain is measured honestly, daily life becomes a little calmer. Order lives not only in laws written by officials. It also lives in simple fairness between neighbors. Farther along the river, several boats have arrived from another settlement. They carry sacks of grain, bundles of flax, smooth limestone blocks, and carefully stacked pottery wrapped in straw. The boats drift quietly toward the shore. Long wooden poles guide them gently into place. Ropes are tied around worn wooden posts. The work of unloading begins. Strong shoulders lift heavy sacks one after another. Each load is carried carefully to waiting storage buildings. Dust rises from the grain sacks. The smell of dry straw mixes with the fresh scent of river water. Nearby, a scribe waits beneath a shaded shelter. As each shipment arrives, he writes a careful record. His reed pen moves slowly across fresh papyrus. He does not hurry. A hurried record invites mistakes. A careful record protects everyone. When grain enters a storehouse, someone must know how much has arrived. When supplies leave again, someone must remember where they have gone. These quiet calculations help prevent confusion months later. The work seems ordinary, perhaps even dull. Yet generations depend upon such patience. Inside one of the large granaries, the air feels cooler than outside. The thick mud brick walls keep much of the heat away. Workers pour grain into wide storage bins. The sound is soft and steady. Thousands upon thousands of tiny kernels fall together like gentle rain. Some workers smooth the surface with broad wooden tools. Others inspect the walls for cracks where insects or moisture might enter. Every harvest must be protected. The future often sleeps quietly inside these storehouses. A successful season cannot help the people if the grain is allowed to spoil. The men and women working here understand this without needing to say it aloud. Each careful inspection becomes another quiet promise to the coming months. Outside once more, the Nile continues its endless journey. The river seems almost unchanged by the passing hours. Its surface sparkles beneath the afternoon sun. Small waves brush softly against reeds growing along the shore. A fisherman guides his boat into calmer water before lowering another net. He has already caught enough fish for today. Still, he remains on the river a little longer. There is peace here. The wide water reflects the open sky. A cool breeze lingers above the current, softer than the air back on land. He watches a white bird standing perfectly still near the reeds. Minutes pass. Neither the bird nor the fisherman seems impatient. Eventually, the bird strikes the water with astonishing speed before returning to stillness once more. The fisherman smiles quietly. Nature itself seems to understand the value of patience. As the afternoon slowly stretches onward, builders continue their work at a construction site not far from the village. The building is not a great temple or a royal monument. It is a storage house that will protect grain from future harvests. Its walls rise little by little. Mud bricks are passed from one pair of hands to another. A mason smooths fresh mortar between each layer. Another worker checks that every wall remains straight. No one tries to finish everything in a single day. Buildings meant to last are built with steady care. The men pause often to drink water from large clay jars kept beneath woven shelters. Their linen clothing is darkened with sweat. Dust clings to their arms and legs. Their muscles ache from lifting. Yet there is little complaint. The work itself has become familiar. Each completed row of bricks quietly joins thousands of other careful efforts made across the kingdom. In the distance, a pair of donkeys walk slowly along a dusty road. Their packs are filled with bundles of papyrus harvested from marshes near the river. The plants will soon become writing material for scribes, letters for officials, records for storehouses, and prayers copied inside temples. One humble plant, growing beside calm water, will carry countless words across Egypt. The driver walks beside the animals rather than behind them. Every so often, he reaches out to gently pat one donkey's neck. The animal flicks an ear but continues walking at the same patient pace. The road stretches ahead beneath the warm afternoon light. Tiny stones crunch beneath worn sandals. Heat rises from the earth in soft shimmering waves. Above, a hawk circles slowly through the cloudless sky. Nothing appears hurried. Nothing seems uncertain. Everywhere, people continue following rhythms learned over generations. Not because someone is constantly watching them. Not because they fear punishment. But because these routines have become woven into everyday life. The baker knows when to prepare the ovens. The farmer knows when to watch the river. The fisherman understands the changing currents. The scribe remembers each careful mark. The builder places one brick upon another. Each person trusts that others are doing much the same. Perhaps this quiet trust is one of the strongest foundations Egypt ever possessed. It cannot be carved into stone. It cannot be placed inside a treasure chamber. Yet it is present everywhere. In the careful weighing of grain. In the repair of a canal. In the sharing of bread. In the steady movement of boats upon the Nile. In the peaceful acceptance that another ordinary day, lived with patience and care, helps keep the whole land in gentle balance. The afternoon light slowly begins to soften, though the warmth still lingers over the fields, the riverbanks, and the quiet villages where countless ordinary lives continue, one calm moment after another. The afternoon slowly leans toward evening. The bright white light of midday begins to soften, almost without anyone noticing. The shadows grow a little longer with each passing moment. The air remains warm, but the harsh edge of the day's heat slowly begins to fade. For many workers, this is a welcome change. The hardest hours are nearly behind them. The fields still stretch across the valley in quiet rows of green, bordered by the rich dark earth left behind by the Nile's gentle floods. A faint breeze begins to move once again, stirring the tops of the grain and carrying the scent of damp soil through the open land. A farmer straightens his back after many hours bent over his work. His shoulders ache. His hands are rough. Small lines of dried mud cover his ankles. He places one hand against the small of his back and looks across the fields. There is still more work waiting. There is always more work waiting. But there is no feeling of being overwhelmed. The work belongs to tomorrow as much as it belongs to today. He has learned not to fight the passing of time. The earth teaches patience better than any lesson. Seeds cannot be hurried. Water cannot be forced to flow faster than the river allows. The seasons move at their own gentle pace. The people who live beside the Nile slowly learn to do the same. Nearby, his wife gathers bundles of flax that have been drying beneath the afternoon sun. She ties each bundle with strips of woven fiber before placing them neatly into a basket. Nothing is scattered. Nothing is wasted. The careful way she works reflects something larger than simple habit. Order begins with small actions. A tidy basket. A clean tool. A well-mended fishing net. A storage jar sealed against dust. These ordinary acts quietly shape everyday life. Their young daughter walks behind her, collecting loose stalks that have fallen onto the ground. She does not want them to be left behind. Her mother never tells her to do this. She has simply watched for many years. Children often learn through quiet observation. They notice how adults fold linen. How they stack pottery. How they sweep the floor before nightfall. How they return tools to the same place every evening. One day those children will do exactly the same. Not because they remember being taught. Because the rhythm has become part of them. The dusty road leading toward the village begins to fill once again. Workers return little by little. Some carry empty baskets. Others balance bundles of reeds across their shoulders. A fisherman walks with two freshly caught fish hanging from a length of rope. The silver scales catch the late afternoon light before disappearing beneath the shade of nearby palms. A donkey follows patiently behind its owner, carrying clay jars filled with fresh water collected earlier in the day. Its slow footsteps leave familiar marks in the dry road. Dust rises gently around its hooves. The road itself has seen countless generations pass. Every morning people walk away from the village. Every evening they return. The path remembers them all. At the edge of the settlement, several children wait excitedly for their parents. Not with loud shouting. Only with quiet smiles and eager faces. One little boy runs toward his father before stopping suddenly. His father is carrying a heavy wooden tool across his shoulders. Without speaking, the boy steps aside so the man can lower the tool safely before embracing him. The father smiles. His face is tired. Dust clings to his beard. Sweat has left pale lines across his sun-darkened skin. But seeing his family seems to lighten the weight he has carried all day. Nearby, smoke once again begins rising from cooking fires. Even before entering the village, many workers recognize the familiar smells. Fresh bread warming beside glowing coals. Lentils slowly simmering inside clay pots. Roasted onions. Herbs crushed moments before they were added to the evening meal. The scents drift through narrow streets, carried gently by the returning breeze. They welcome everyone home. Inside one modest house, an elderly man carefully washes his hands using water poured from a small clay jug. The water is cool against skin warmed by many hours beneath the sun. He dries his hands with a simple linen cloth before sitting quietly upon a woven mat. His wife places a round loaf of bread between them. Without ceremony, they begin their evening meal. The bread is broken into smaller pieces. Beans are shared from a common bowl. A handful of dates rests nearby. The food is plain. It is familiar. And because it is familiar, it brings comfort. Across the village, hundreds of similar meals quietly begin. Families gather after long hours apart. Children describe small discoveries made during the day. Perhaps they saw a turtle near the riverbank. Perhaps they helped carry water for the first time without spilling any. Perhaps they learned a new word from an older brother who studies with a scribe. The conversations remain gentle. There is no need to fill every silence. Silence itself is welcome after a long day of labor. The walls of the mud brick home slowly cool as evening approaches. The thick clay has protected the families from the worst of the afternoon heat. Now it begins to release that warmth little by little. The rooms feel calm. The flickering light of small oil lamps dances softly across the walls. Simple woven baskets hang neatly from wooden pegs. Clay jars stand in orderly rows. Sleeping mats remain rolled until later in the evening. Everything has its place. Even in homes with very few possessions, careful organization matters. Knowing exactly where each tool, basket, or cooking pot belongs saves time every morning. A life built around routine leaves little room for unnecessary searching. Near the center of the village, a potter finishes the last piece of the day. He studies the newly shaped bowl for a quiet moment. His fingers smooth one final rough edge. Then he places it beside several others waiting to dry. The workshop has become peaceful. The spinning wheel has stopped. The clay-covered floor shows the footprints of another day's work. The scent of damp earth still fills the room. He washes his hands slowly. The water turns cloudy with fine clay before soaking into the ground outside. Tomorrow morning, he will begin again. Almost exactly the same. And that thought does not trouble him. There is comfort in knowing what tomorrow will ask. Not far away, the village scribe gently rolls fresh sheets of papyrus after finishing the day's records. He ties them with linen cord before placing them inside a wooden chest. Each scroll represents hours of careful attention. Lists of grain. Records of workers. Accounts of supplies. Notes about fields. Quiet details that help many people live together without confusion. He blows softly across the last page to dry the ink. The tiny black marks remain clear and sharp. When he closes the lid of the chest, another ordinary day has been preserved. Perhaps no one will ever read these records many centuries from now. Perhaps they will disappear with time. Yet tonight they have done their work. They have helped bring order to one more peaceful day. Down at the river, the evening breeze grows stronger. Fishing boats begin returning one after another. Their sails catch the gentle wind. The water glows with warm shades of gold and soft copper as the lowering sun reflects across its surface. The sound of wooden hulls brushing lightly against the shore echoes quietly through the reeds. Men step carefully onto land carrying nets over their shoulders. Some nets are heavy. Others are nearly empty. Both are accepted without complaint. The river offers what it offers. Tomorrow is another day. Several women wait nearby with woven baskets. Fresh fish are sorted carefully. Some will be cooked this evening. Others will be salted and dried for future days. Nothing useful is wasted. Children help gather loose pieces of rope and neatly fold the nets before they are stored. Even this small task teaches responsibility. A tangled net tomorrow could mean lost time before sunrise. Simple care today makes tomorrow easier. As the sun lowers toward the western horizon, the colors of the sky become softer. The harsh brightness disappears. Warm shades of amber spread above the river. Palm trees become dark silhouettes against the fading light. Birds return to their nests among the reeds. Their calls grow fewer with every passing minute. Across the fields, the last workers begin making their way home. The tools they carry seem lighter now. Not because they weigh less. Because the day is nearly complete. The village slowly gathers itself for the quiet hours ahead. Cooking fires burn lower. Voices soften. Doors remain open to welcome the cooler evening air. Some families climb onto their flat rooftops after supper. The stone and mud have begun releasing the day's heat, making these rooftops pleasant places to sit. Parents look toward the river while children point at the first stars appearing overhead. An old grandmother quietly names familiar constellations she has watched since childhood. She learned their names from her own grandmother many years before. The stars have remained faithful companions across every generation. Kings have come and gone. Officials have changed. Buildings have risen. Buildings have fallen. Yet each evening the same sky quietly returns above the Nile. Its calm presence reminds the people that some rhythms are larger than any single lifetime. As darkness slowly settles across the valley, Egypt becomes quieter once more. The day's labor gently fades into memory. Tomorrow's work can wait until another sunrise. For now, the river continues its endless journey through the night, carrying cool water beneath the growing stars while the villages beside its banks slowly prepare for peaceful sleep. Night settles gently over the valley, not as a curtain suddenly drawn across the sky, but as a slow and quiet companion arriving one peaceful moment at a time. The last glow of the sun lingers along the western horizon before fading into deep shades of blue. Above the Nile, the first stars brighten one after another. Soon the heavens are filled with countless points of light, each reflected softly upon the calm water below. The river seems almost asleep. Its current continues without hurry, carrying cool water through the heart of Egypt just as it has for thousands of years. Along the banks, the reeds sway gently in the evening breeze. Their quiet rustling blends with the steady song of crickets hidden among the grasses. Somewhere farther downstream, a frog calls once. Then everything grows still again. The air feels wonderfully different now. The heavy warmth of the afternoon has begun to lift. A cooler breeze slips through the narrow streets of the village, passing over flat rooftops, through open doorways, and between rows of mud brick homes. Many families remain outside for a little while longer. The cool evening is too pleasant to waste. On one rooftop, a father slowly repairs the leather strap of a worn sandal. The day's work has left the stitching loose. He sits cross-legged beneath the stars with a small bone needle and a strip of leather resting in his lap. His fingers move slowly. There is no rush. The sandal does not need to be finished immediately. The quiet work itself is relaxing after a long day beneath the sun. Beside him, his wife folds freshly washed linen. Each piece is smoothed carefully before being stacked into neat piles. Tomorrow morning they will already know exactly where every garment can be found. Simple order saves precious moments when the village wakes before sunrise. Nearby, two young children lie on their backs looking up at the night sky. They search for familiar patterns among the stars. Their grandmother points gently upward. She speaks in a calm voice, telling them how travelers often use the stars to guide boats along the Nile after sunset. The children listen with wide eyes. The stars seem close enough to touch. A soft wind brushes across the rooftop. No one speaks for several minutes. There is no need. Silence feels comfortable here. Throughout the village, the sounds of the day continue to fade. The steady tapping of workshops has stopped. The potter's wheel stands still. The carpenter has placed his tools neatly against the wall. The baker's oven glows with only a few remaining embers. The fishermen have hung their nets where the evening breeze can dry them before morning. Everything rests. Everything waits. Tomorrow will come soon enough. Near the river, several small boats remain tied securely to wooden posts. They rise and fall almost unnoticed with the gentle movement of the water. A watchman walks slowly along the shoreline carrying a simple oil lamp. The little flame dances softly whenever the breeze passes. His footsteps are unhurried. He knows every bend in the path. Every dock. Every storage building. He pauses now and then, listening to the quiet sounds of the night. Nothing seems unusual. The village sleeps peacefully. That is enough. The work of protecting a community is often quiet. Many people imagine order as something created only by powerful rulers giving commands. Yet much of Egypt's peace depends upon people like this watchman. He asks for little recognition. Most villagers will never think about the slow walk he takes each evening. Still, because someone keeps watch, others sleep more comfortably. Nearby, the large granary stands silent beneath the stars. Its thick mud brick walls appear almost silver beneath the moonlight. Inside, thousands of baskets of grain rest safely in orderly rows. Each basket represents many weeks of patient labor. Many hours beneath the sun. Many careful harvests. Many journeys from field to storehouse. The grain waits quietly for future seasons. Its presence brings comfort even to those who never see it. Knowing food has been stored allows families to sleep with lighter hearts. Not every year will be perfect. Some floods will be smaller. Some harvests less generous. But careful preparation offers hope. The builders who strengthened these walls. The workers who carried each sack. The scribes who counted every measure. Each has quietly contributed to tomorrow's security. The village itself breathes more slowly now. From open doorways comes the faint glow of small oil lamps. Inside one home, an elderly woman finishes spinning flax into thread. The spindle turns gently between her fingers. Round and round. Round and round. The rhythm is almost hypnotic. She has performed this same task for so many years that her hands seem to move by themselves. Beside her, her granddaughter has already fallen asleep upon a woven mat. The little girl's breathing is slow and steady. A blanket woven from soft linen covers her against the cooler night air. The grandmother smiles before placing the finished thread into a basket. Tomorrow it may become part of a new garment. Or perhaps a fishing net. Or the cord used to tie bundles of papyrus. Even the smallest thread may one day serve an important purpose. Across the narrow street, another family prepares for sleep. Sleeping mats are unrolled one by one. Each is placed in its familiar position. Clay water jars are filled before anyone lies down. The evening fire is carefully covered so that no wandering spark can escape during the night. The final chores are completed almost without thought. These routines have become part of life itself. Every evening follows nearly the same peaceful pattern. The predictability brings comfort. Children know what comes next. Parents know what tomorrow will require. The rhythm continues day after day. Season after season. Generation after generation. Outside, the moon climbs higher above the eastern horizon. Its pale light falls across the calm surface of the Nile. The river now reflects both stars and moon together. A gentle current carries their shimmering images slowly downstream. Some fishermen remain awake a little longer. They sit quietly beside their boats repairing small tears in their nets by moonlight. The work requires patience. Each knot must be tied correctly. One weak knot could allow fish to escape tomorrow. Their fingers move carefully despite growing tired. The soft splash of water against the shore becomes their only companion. Farther away, in another village many miles upstream, another family follows almost exactly the same evening routine. A mother folds linen. A father sharpens a wooden hoe for tomorrow's work. Children drift toward sleep while listening to the distant sound of frogs along the riverbank. Though separated by many miles, their lives are connected through shared habits. Shared seasons. Shared hopes. The Nile joins them all together. It carries boats from one settlement to another. It carries news. Grain. Stone. Papyrus. Fish. Ideas. The river quietly binds Egypt into a single living land. This quiet connection helps explain how order could endure across such great distances. The kingdom is not held together by roads alone, nor by officials alone, nor by soldiers alone. It is held together by familiar routines repeated in thousands of villages every single day. Families rising before dawn. Fields carefully tended. Canals maintained. Boats repaired. Records written. Bread baked. Children learning by watching their elders. The smallest habits become the strongest foundations. As the night deepens, the desert beyond the green valley grows wonderfully still. The endless sand reflects the moonlight with a soft pale glow. No voices reach that quiet place. Only the gentle whisper of wind moving across the dunes. The contrast is peaceful. On one side lies the fertile ribbon of the Nile filled with quiet human life. Beyond it stretches the silent desert, vast and timeless beneath the stars. The people of Egypt understand both worlds. The river teaches abundance. The desert teaches respect. Together they shape a way of life built upon balance rather than excess. Back in the village, nearly every lamp has now been extinguished. Darkness settles softly between the homes. Only a few windows still show a warm golden light. Perhaps someone is finishing a garment. Perhaps an elderly scribe is reviewing one final record before resting. Perhaps a mother is quietly comforting a child who has awakened from a dream. These small moments pass unnoticed by history. Yet they are every bit as real as the grand monuments that will survive for thousands of years. Long after names of ordinary families have been forgotten, the memory of their daily rhythm will remain hidden within the lasting stability of Egypt itself. Their quiet discipline, their patience, their willingness to perform the same necessary tasks day after day. These unseen gifts become part of something much larger than any single lifetime. Above them all, the stars continue their silent journey across the heavens. The cool breeze carries the scent of the river through sleeping streets. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls softly before returning to silence. The Nile flows on without interruption, just as it did yesterday and just as it will tomorrow, gently carrying another peaceful Egyptian night toward the coming dawn. The night settles deeper now, moving beyond the first hours of darkness and into something quieter, something more still. The village no longer feels active in any visible way. Yet it is not truly empty. Life continues behind closed doors, beneath rooftops, inside small rooms lit only by fading embers. The Nile keeps moving beside it all. A slow, steady presence in the dark. Along its banks, the reeds bend gently as the breeze passes through them. The sound is soft, almost like breathing. Insects hum faintly in the grass, their voices rising and falling in patterns that never quite stop, even when everything else grows silent. The river reflects the sky without effort. Stars appear sharper now that the heat of the day has fully left the air. Their light is steady and cold, scattered across the wide darkness above and mirrored below in the water's calm surface. A small boat drifts near the shore, tied loosely but safely to a wooden post. Inside it, a fisherman sleeps. His body rests where his work ended. His net lies folded beside him, still damp, still carrying the faint smell of the river. One hand rests loosely over the edge of the boat, fingers nearly touching the water. He does not notice the gentle movement beneath him. The river carries him in place without disturbing his rest. On the bank nearby, a thin path leads back toward the sleeping village. Footprints from the day are already softening, slowly blending back into the dust. A watchman passes once more along this path. His oil lamp burns lower now, the flame smaller but steady. It casts a small circle of light that moves with him, never reaching far, never needing to. He walks without urgency. There is nothing to chase in this hour. Only quiet spaces to pass through. He pauses at the edge of the granary again. The building stands heavy and still, its thick walls holding the night's coolness inside. No sound comes from within. Only silence, layered and deep. He listens for a moment longer than before. A habit learned over many nights. The absence of sound is its own kind of reassurance. Then he continues on, his steps slow against the packed earth. Far inside the village, families sleep in scattered arrangements of small homes. A child shifts slightly under a woven blanket, turning toward the warmth of the wall. A mother breathes steadily beside her. A father's hand rests near the edge of a clay water jar, placed carefully within reach even in sleep. Everything is arranged with quiet intention. Even rest has its order. Even sleep carries routine. In another house, a small lamp still flickers. A scribe remains awake longer than the others. Not out of urgency, but habit. His reed pen rests beside him. A half-finished note lies open on papyrus. The ink has already begun to dry. He reads it once more in the dim light. numbers, names, small records of grain and supply. Simple marks that hold meaning only because everyone agrees on their value. He adjusts one line carefully, then stops. The moment of correction is complete. No celebration follows it. Only the soft closing of the papyrus scroll and the quiet placing of it into a wooden container. He exhales slowly. Outside, the night continues without change. The scribe finally lies down on his mat. The lamp is extinguished with a gentle pinch of fingers. Darkness settles fully into the room. Elsewhere, in the fields beyond the village, the earth cools at its own pace. The soil that carried so much work during the day now rests under the open sky. It holds the memory of footsteps, of water carried across irrigation channels, of seeds pressed into rows, of oxen pulling slowly through prepared ground. Nothing in the soil moves now. Yet it remains alive in a quiet way. Waiting. Patient. As if it understands that time in this land is not broken into sharp endings, but continues in soft cycles. Night always returns to morning. And morning always returns to labor. The fields accept this without resistance. Along a narrow canal, water flows gently even in darkness. Its surface is darker than the river, narrower, more enclosed, but still alive with movement. Reeds along its edges sway slightly when the wind reaches them. A small frog sits perfectly still on a stone near the water line. It does not move for a long time. Then, without warning, it disappears into the canal with a soft ripple. The water closes behind it as if nothing happened. The canal continues its work, carrying life forward in silence. Back in the village, a few rooftops still hold faint signs of activity. On one, a family prepares for full sleep. They have finished their evening meal long ago, but they remain outside for a final stretch of cool air before lying down. The father looks toward the river. The mother adjusts a child's blanket. The child is already half asleep, eyes drifting shut and opening again slowly, as if unsure whether to fully leave the world of waking just yet. Above them, the sky is vast and uninterrupted. No clouds. Only stars. The same stars that have watched over countless nights like this. The father speaks softly, not to explain anything important, but simply to mark the passing of time. A quiet comment about tomorrow's work. About the river's likely behavior. About a small repair needed on a tool. Nothing heavy. Nothing urgent. Just the language of ordinary life continuing forward. Soon they descend from the roof. One by one. The home grows still. Inside, sleeping mats are already arranged. Clay jars are checked once more. A final glance at the door confirms it is properly closed. Then rest arrives. Not suddenly, but gently, like everything else in this place. Outside, the night deepens further. The moon has moved higher now, casting a softer, wider light across the valley. It touches the tops of palm trees. It glides over the river. It rests on the silent faces of mud brick homes. Everything it touches appears calmer, as if the world itself has slowed to match its pace. Far from the village, the desert holds its own silence. A silence that is different from the rivers. Less alive. More still. The dunes rise and fall in soft shapes under moonlight, untouched by human rhythm. No footsteps remain here. Only wind. It moves lightly across the sand, reshaping small surfaces without haste. The desert does not oppose change. It simply allows it, slowly, quietly, without resistance. Between the desert and the river lies the narrow band of life where Egypt exists. A place where stillness and movement meet. Where water brings growth to land that would otherwise remain empty. Where people learn to live between heat and coolness, between flood and dryness, between effort and rest. In this balance, order does not feel forced. It feels natural. Like breathing. Back in the sleeping village, the final lamps fade out one by one. Darkness becomes complete. Yet even in this darkness, nothing feels lost. The river remains. The fields remain. The canals continue their quiet flow. The storehouses stand full. The tools rest where they were placed. And the people sleep with the quiet certainty that morning will return in its usual time. The night continues without interruption. Soft. Wide. Unbroken. And somewhere beyond the edge of sleep itself, the Nile keeps moving forward, carrying the calm rhythm of Egypt through another silent hour beneath the stars. The night does not end all at once in ancient Egypt. It fades in layers, slowly, as if the darkness itself is reluctant to leave. The deepest hour arrives when even the river feels almost invisible. Only the faintest reflections of starlight ripple across its surface. The wind is quieter now. The reeds barely move. The entire valley rests in a long, steady pause. This is the hour when everything feels suspended. Not asleep. Not awake. Simply existing in stillness. In the village, no lamps remain lit. No doors open. No footsteps cross the dusty paths. Yet life continues in the soft rhythm of sleep. A child turns over and grips the edge of a woven mat a little tighter. A mother exhales slowly, her breathing matching the calm of the night outside. An elderly man shifts his arm beneath his head, finding a more comfortable position after a long day of work remembered only in the body now, not the mind. Sleep in this land is not fragile. It is steady. Repetitive. Familiar. Like every other part of life, it follows a pattern shaped by years of routine. Outside the village, the watchman continues his slow walk. His oil lamp is now barely more than a glowing ember protected by glass and clay. It casts only a small, warm circle around his hands and feet. Beyond that circle, the world is darkness and soundless space. He pauses near the edge of the irrigation canal. Water flows there, narrow and dark, carrying the last of the day's warmth into the earth. He kneels for a moment, not because anything is wrong, but because he has always done so at this point in his path. A quiet habit. He listens. The water speaks in soft movement. The wind answers in faint rustling reeds. Nothing else. He nods once to himself and continues walking. Far away from the village, beyond fields and canals, the desert stretches endlessly under the night sky. It is a different kind of world. A world without water sounds, without human movement, without the gentle glow of lamps. Only sand. Only stone. Only silence shaped by wind. Even here, though, the night is not empty. Small creatures move beneath the surface, hidden in cool burrows. Occasional tracks from animals pass through the dunes, already softening as wind begins to erase them. The desert never keeps records. It lets everything return to stillness. Back at the edge of the cultivated land, the Nile continues its slow passage. A fishing net drifts slightly in a tide boat, moved by gentle currents. A single reed breaks the surface of the water and sways lightly as if breathing. The river does not sleep. It never truly stops. But at night, it becomes softer in its presence, less visible, more like a memory of movement than movement itself. Inside the village, the granary stands as one of the few structures that seems unchanged by the passing hours. Its thick walls hold a kind of quiet permanence. Inside, grain rests in carefully stacked baskets, each one placed with intention during the day. Insects remain outside where they cannot reach it. Moisture is held back by clay and design and careful attention. The people who built this place did not think in terms of days or weeks. They thought in seasons, in years, in generations. The granary is not just storage. It is time preserved in physical form. A future held gently inside mud brick walls. Nearby, a small shrine rests in darkness. No grand ceremony takes place here tonight. Only stillness. A faint scent of incense lingers from earlier in the day, now barely noticeable. The figures inside are shadowed and calm, their shapes softened by darkness. People may pass by during daylight without thinking much of it. But at night, even the smallest sacred space feels more present. As if the silence itself gives it weight. Further inside the village, a newborn child stirs briefly in sleep. Its mother wakes slightly, adjusting the blanket without fully opening her eyes. A hand rests gently on the child's back for a moment. Warmth shared in darkness. Then both return to stillness. This is how life continues in Egypt. Not through grand events, but through small, repeated acts of care. Again and again. Across homes, across fields, across generations. The night begins its slow turn toward morning, though nothing in the village shows it yet. The stars remain steady overhead, but the faintest hint of change begins far beyond the eastern horizon. A subtle shift in darkness. Almost unnoticeable. The world is not yet waking. But it is preparing. In the fields, the soil remains cool and undisturbed. Yet beneath it, seeds rest where they were placed, holding the quiet promise of future growth. The canals continue to carry water in narrow paths, ensuring that even in sleep, the land is being gently tended. Everything important continues without interruption. Even when no one is watching. Even when no one is awake. At the edge of the river, a fisherman finally settles fully into sleep inside his boat. His net is secured. His oar rests against the side. The boat rocks softly with the current, as if cradling him. Above him, the sky is vast and unmoving. The same sky that guided him during the day now watches over him in silence. Time passes slowly here. Not measured in minutes or hours. But in cycles of light and darkness. Of labor and rest. Of flood and harvest. Of waking and sleep. The people of Egypt live inside these cycles without needing to name them. They simply follow them. As generations before them have done. As generations after them will continue to do. The night deepens one final time before the earliest hint of dawn begins to form somewhere beyond the horizon. The village remains still. The river remains steady. And the land, held gently between desert and water, waits quietly for another ordinary morning to return. The first change is so small it almost cannot be noticed. It is not light yet. Not even close to sunrise. The sky is still deep and dark, holding the final weight of night. But somewhere far beyond the eastern edge of the valley, the darkness begins to soften. Not by color. Not by brightness. Only by feeling. The night feels slightly less heavy than before. In the village, nothing moves on the surface. Homes remain still. Roofs remain quiet. The river continues its slow, steady path. Yet inside this stillness, life begins its earliest return. A man shifts in his sleep and slowly opens his eyes for a moment without fully waking. He listens to the quiet air inside his home. Everything is calm. He closes his eyes again. A mother reaches for a water jar beside her mat and takes a small sip before settling back down. A child murmurs softly, caught somewhere between dream and waking, then relaxes once more into sleep. These small movements are not signs of mourning. They are simply the natural rhythm of a body that has learned the cycle of the land. Night always loosens its hold before it fully leaves. Outside, the watchman completes another slow circuit of the village. His steps are steady, unchanged from earlier hours. The lamp he carries is now very low, the flame small and patient, as if conserving itself for the last stretch of darkness. He pauses near the granary again. The building feels even larger in the dark, its presence quiet but firm. He places a hand briefly against the wall. Cool mud brick beneath his palm. Solid. Unmoving. He continues on. There is no urgency in his walk. Only repetition. Only care. The canal beside the fields reflects the faintest suggestion of the sky above. Not light yet, but a gentle easing of darkness. Water continues its patient flow, carrying the memory of the river deeper into the land. Reeds along its edge shift slightly as a breeze passes through them. The sound is almost invisible. But it is there. In the fields, the soil remains still. Yet beneath that stillness, life is quietly waiting. Seeds pressed into earth rest in darkness, unchanged on the surface but already part of a slow process that will stretch into future months. Nothing rushes them. Nothing interrupts them. They simply wait within the soil as the land prepares, as it always does, for what comes next. Farther away, the Nile continues its long journey through the night. Its movement is subtle now, barely visible except where it catches the last reflections of starlight. A lone bird glides low across the water, then disappears into the reeds without a sound. Even the river seems to lower its voice, as if it understands the closeness of morning. In the village, a few households begin their earliest preparations without fully waking. A baker stirs near his sleeping mat, already sensing the coming routine of the day. His body remembers before his mind does. He sits up slowly, resting for a moment with his eyes half open. He does not yet begin work. He simply acknowledges that soon he will. This is how life often begins here. Not with sudden action, but with awareness. Across another home, a woman adjusts a small clay lamp, checking the oil without fully lighting it again. The motion is practiced, quiet, almost automatic. She knows the day is near. But she does not hurry it. Outside, the sky continues its subtle shift. The darkness is still present, but it no longer feels absolute. There is a softness at its edges now. A quiet suggestion that something is approaching from beyond the horizon. The stars remain visible, but they seem slightly less sharp than before. As if their brightness is slowly being shared with something unseen. The desert beyond the fields remains silent. But even there, the wind begins to change direction slightly, moving cooler air toward the valley. It crosses sand and stone without resistance, carrying with it the first breath of the coming morning. Back in the village, the watchman reaches the end of his route. He stands for a moment at the edge of the path, looking out over the sleeping homes. Everything is as it should be. No doors broken. No fires left unattended. No disturbances in the calm order of the night. He nods slightly to himself. Not in relief. Only recognition. Then he turns and begins the slow return toward the place where he will rest before the next night comes again. The granary remains silent behind him. The canal continues its quiet flow. The river continues its endless movement. And the village remains suspended in that fragile space between darkness and dawn. Inside one house, an elderly man opens his eyes and stays awake this time. Not because of disturbance, but because his body recognizes the change that is coming. He listens. The night is still present, but it is thinning. He slowly sits up and begins to prepare for the day without yet stepping outside. He will be among the first to rise. Not because he must rush, but because he has done so for many years. Across the village, this quiet awakening spreads little by little. Not in waves of noise, but in gentle awareness. People begin to sense the approaching shift. Not through sight, not through sound, but through rhythm. The rhythm of life itself turning toward morning. The sky above the Nile holds this moment carefully. Still dark, still night, but no longer entirely deep. A threshold is forming, and beyond it, the first light of another ordinary day is waiting patiently to arrive. The village does not fully wake yet. It only leans toward waking. A quiet shift passes through the air, gentle and almost invisible, like the river changing its current in a place no one is watching. The sky is still dark, but it no longer feels endless. There is a soft thinning at the edge of night, a quiet loosening of darkness that spreads slowly across the eastern horizon. Inside the homes, people begin to move in half-awareness. A hand reaches for a water jar. A blanket is adjusted. A child turns toward the warmth of another sleeping body. These are not actions of urgency. They are simply the body remembering the pattern of the land. Morning has not arrived, but it is near enough to be felt. Outside, the watchman's final steps fade into the distance as he returns from his long circuit. His lamp is almost extinguished now. The small flame that guided him through the deepest part of the night has become a faint glow, barely enough to mark his presence. He lowers it carefully as he walks. There is no need for light anymore in the same way. The night is ending on its own. At the granary, silence remains unchanged. But the structure now seems less like something resting in darkness and more like something waiting calmly inside transition. The thick walls hold the coolness of night, but the first warmth of dawn has not yet reached them. They stand in balance between two worlds. One ending, one beginning. Along the canal, water continues its steady flow. It reflects something new now, not light exactly, but the suggestion of light. A faint lifting in the darkness above it, mirrored in the gentle surface below. Reeds along the bank shift slightly in a soft, cooler breeze that has traveled from the desert. That breeze carries the first true sign of morning. Not color, not brightness, only change. In the fields, the soil remains still, but the air above it feels different. The seeds beneath the earth continue their patient rest. They are untouched by the shift above them, yet everything around them is preparing for the return of work. The land never forgets its rhythm. Night gives space. Morning takes it back. And between them, there is always this quiet moment of waiting. In one home, the baker finally stands fully awake. He does not speak. He does not rush. He simply begins to prepare the familiar tools of his work. The clay oven outside is still cool, but soon it will be warmed. Soon dough will be shaped. Soon bread will carry its scent through the village again. He moves slowly, as if respecting the stillness that still lingers in the air. Across another house, a woman steps outside briefly, barefoot on the cool earth. She pauses for a moment, looking toward the river. The darkness is still present, but it is no longer complete. Something beyond it is forming. She does not name it. She simply notices. Then she returns inside. The Nile continues its motion beside all of this. It has not changed its pace. It never does. But the sky above it begins to show the faintest suggestion of depth returning to the world. The stars remain, but they feel more distant now, as if the sky itself is slowly lowering its gaze toward the earth. The desert wind grows steadier. It moves through the valley with a gentle consistency, brushing against palm trees, crossing fields, passing over rooftops, and continuing onward without interruption. It is the first breath of the coming day. In the village, more people begin to rise. Not all at once. Not in response to a call. But through shared understanding. A rhythm learned so deeply it no longer needs thought. Water is fetched quietly. Small lamps are checked one last time. Doors are unlatched. Sleeping mats are rolled and set aside. The movements are soft, almost ritual in their familiarity. No one speaks loudly. There is no need to break the calm of transition. Above them, the sky continues to shift. Still dark. Still quiet. But no longer fully night. A thin line of transformation stretches along the horizon, barely visible, like a memory of light preparing to return. At the riverbank, a fisherman sits up inside his boat. He had not fully slept. His rest has been light, tied closely to the movement of the water beneath him. He looks toward the east without moving for a long moment. Then he reaches for his net. Not yet to cast it. Only to prepare it. He knows what is coming. The river knows too. Everything in this land seems to recognize the approach of morning before it fully arrives. In the village, the first faint sounds of activity begin. A soft scrape of a tool being lifted. A low murmur between two people sharing early tasks. A distant creak of a door opening. These sounds do not break the silence. They are part of it. The silence is simply changing shape. The watchman is now gone from the paths. But his presence lingers in the order he has maintained. The granary stands secure. The canals remain intact. The village rests in safety as it begins to awaken. The eastern sky grows slightly lighter, though still without color. It is a light that cannot yet be seen clearly, only sensed. A gentle easing of darkness. A soft surrender of night. And beneath it all, the Nile continues its endless journey, carrying the memory of darkness and the promise of dawn side by side, as another quiet morning begins to form over the land of ancient Egypt. Now the night is no longer deep. It is only waiting. The sky over the Nile has begun to soften in a way that cannot yet be called sunrise. There is still no direct light, no sharp edges of color, only a gradual easing of darkness that spreads quietly across the horizon. It feels like the world is taking a slow breath. In the village, more doors open. Not quickly. Not all at once. Just one, then another, then a few more, until the settlement begins to show signs of life again. The movements are unhurried, shaped by long practice rather than urgency. People step outside and pause. They always pause. As if acknowledging the moment between sleep and work, between night and day. The air is cooler now. It carries the faintest trace of river mist drifting inland. A calmness remains, but it is different from the calmness of night. This one feels more awake. More expectant. Inside the homes, the last of the sleeping mats are rolled away. Clay jars are checked for water. Small baskets are lifted and placed near doorways. Every object returns to its place in the early rhythm of the morning. Nothing is forgotten. Everything follows memory. In one house, a baker gently stirs the first mixture of dough. His hands move slowly, almost carefully, as if the dough itself is still resting. The flour, the water, the quiet pressure of his palms, all of it feels familiar, like something passed down without words. Outside, the oven waits. Cold. Still. Patient. It will soon be warmed again, as it has been for countless mornings before this one. Across the village, similar preparations begin to appear in quiet sequence. A farmer lifts his tools. A woman ties the straps of a water jar more tightly across her shoulder. A fisherman checks the knots of his net once more, though he already checked them before sleeping. These small repetitions are not doubt. They are reassurance. A way of stepping gently back into the world of work. Along the river, the Nile begins to reflect something new. Not yet sunlight, but the suggestion of it. The eastern horizon grows lighter in a soft, almost colorless glow. The water catches this change and stretches it across its surface, as if the river itself is remembering the shape of day. Birds begin to move again. First one, then a few more. Their calls are soft at first, uncertain, then gradually more present as the sky continues to brighten. The reeds along the shore sway in a steady morning breeze. A fisherman pushes his boat slightly away from the bank. The motion is simple. One hand. One push. A slow drift into deeper water. He does not begin fishing yet. He waits. Like everything else in this moment, he waits for the day to fully arrive. In the fields, farmers walk slowly between rows of dark soil. The earth is cool beneath their feet. It holds the memory of yesterday's heat, but now it rests under the quiet renewal of morning air. One man kneels briefly, touching the soil with his fingers. It is a small gesture. Almost nothing. But it connects him to everything that will follow in the hours ahead. Work will return soon. But not yet. There is still a soft space of transition, where the world feels balanced between rest and motion. In the village, the first faint smoke rises from cooking fires. It is thinner than before, almost invisible at first, blending into the pale sky. Then it becomes clearer as more fires are lit. Bread will be baked. Water will be boiled. Simple meals will be prepared for the start of another long day. The scent of grain begins to drift through narrow paths again. Familiar. Comforting. A reminder that life is resuming its ordinary shape. The sun has not yet appeared. But its presence is already felt everywhere. In the way shadows begin to lose their depth. In the way the river grows brighter along its edges. In the way people move with a quiet readiness, as if they are being gently guided forward. At the edge of the village, the granary stands unchanged. But it now belongs more to the day than to the night. Its walls reflect the faint early light, soft and steady. Inside, grain remains still and protected, waiting for the hands that will come later to measure, carry, and distribute it once again. Nothing inside has changed. And yet everything outside has shifted. Time in ancient Egypt does not rush forward. It unfolds. Slowly. Predictably. Like water finding its path through earth. The sky brightens a little more. Still not sunrise. Still not full day. But the threshold is close now. So close that even silence begins to feel different. The village stands within it, fully aware without needing to speak it aloud. And as the Nile continues its quiet movement beside the waking land, another ordinary morning prepares to arrive with the same gentle certainty it has always carried, across every day, across every generation, across the long and steady rhythm of ancient Egypt. The moment before sunrise feels like a pause that the entire world agrees to share. The sky is no longer dark, but it is not yet bright. It rests in a soft gray blue, stretched evenly above the Nile and the valley, as if the night has loosened its grip but the day has not yet fully taken hold. Everything is still. Yet everything is ready. In the village, movement becomes more continuous now. Not sudden, not loud, but steady. Doors remain open. People step in and out of homes with familiar ease. The quiet of sleep has been replaced by the quiet of preparation. A baker now stands beside his oven. The clay structure is beginning to warm. A faint heat builds inside, slow and patient. He feeds it carefully with dry reeds and small pieces of wood. Each addition is measured, not too much, not too fast. The fire responds gently. It grows in its own time. Inside nearby homes, dough that was prepared earlier is now being shaped. Small rounds are pressed between hands and placed on wooden trays. Each movement is smooth, practiced, almost without thought. Bread will soon rise again. As it always does. Across the village, water jars are lifted and carried toward the river. The paths are slightly cooler than before, holding on to the last memory of night. Bare feet touch the earth with quiet familiarity. No one hurries. There is no need. The rhythm of the morning is already established. Along the Nile, the river reflects the changing sky in soft gradients of pale light. The surface is calmer than it was during the deeper night, as if even the water senses the approaching day. A fisherman sits at the edge of his boat, waiting. His net rests neatly beside him. He does not cast it yet. He watches the water instead, studying its subtle movement, the way it carries small signs of current and wind. Fishing here is not only action. It is observation. Understanding when to move is as important as movement itself. In the fields, farmers walk slowly between rows of soil. The earth is still cool beneath the growing light. It feels firm now, settled after the long night. Some workers begin loosening tools from their shoulders. Others simply stand for a moment, looking across the wide green and brown landscape. The fields are not yet busy. But they are no longer asleep. They are waiting. The canal systems that run through the land continue their quiet work. Water flows steadily through narrow channels, feeding the edges of fields, reaching places that would otherwise remain dry. Small adjustments are made where needed. A handful of earth pressed into a weak edge. A reed repositioned to guide flow more evenly. These small corrections preserve balance. Not through force, but through attention. Near the village center, smoke from cooking fires grows more visible now. It rises in soft columns that drift upward and blend into the lightning sky. The smell of bread becomes stronger, warmer, more present. Children begin to gather near doorways, already awake, already moving toward the day with a kind of quiet energy that contrasts with the slower movements of adults. One child carries a small wooden bowl carefully, walking with serious concentration so as not to spill its contents. Another follows behind, barefoot, stepping into familiar dust paths that lead toward the river. The village begins to sound different. Not louder. Just fuller. Footsteps are more frequent. Voices appear more often, though still gentle. Tools are lifted, set down, lifted again. The ordinary sounds of life returning. Above all of this, the sky continues to brighten. The gray blue softens further, slowly revealing a pale glow along the eastern horizon. It is still subtle, almost hesitant, but it spreads wider with each passing moment. The river responds first. Its surface begins to shimmer faintly, catching the earliest light before it is visible on land. The water becomes a long ribbon of quiet reflection, stretching through the valley like a memory of night turning into day. A breeze moves across it, smooth and cool, traveling inland. It passes through reeds, over sand, across fields, and into the village, touching everything briefly before continuing onward. In one home, an elderly man sits at the doorway and simply watches. He does not speak. He does not move much. He has seen this moment countless times in his life, yet he still observes it with quiet attention. The return of morning is never identical. But it is always familiar. And that familiarity carries its own comfort. The granary stands unchanged in structure, but now it belongs fully to the waking world. The first workers approach it slowly, preparing for the day's tasks of measuring, distributing, and recording. Their footsteps are calm. Their movements deliberate. Inside, grain waits in silent order, as it always has, ready to become bread, trade, or storage for future seasons. At the riverbank, the fisherman finally lifts his net. Not yet casting it wide. Only testing its weight. Feeling the water's readiness. He breathes slowly and looks once more toward the horizon. The sky is brighter now. Not yet sunlit. But close. So close that the world feels suspended between two breaths. Then, at last, the first edge of the sun begins to appear beyond the eastern desert. It is not sudden. It does not break the sky. It enters gently, as if it has been there all along, simply waiting to be revealed. A thin line of gold touches the horizon. The river catches it first. Then the fields. Then the village. And in that soft unfolding light, ancient Egypt quietly returns to day once again, continuing its endless rhythm of work, rest, and calm order beneath the same sky that has watched over it for centuries. The first light of the sun does not rush into the world. It spreads slowly, like warm water being poured across the horizon, filling the spaces between earth and sky with a gentle glow that grows a little stronger with every passing moment. The eastern edge of the desert begins to glow gold. Not bright yet. Not sharp. Only soft and rising. Across the Nile, the reflection of that light stretches in a long, trembling line. The river seems to carry the morning itself, moving it quietly through the valley as it has done for countless generations. The village responds without needing instruction. It has always known this moment. Doors open a little wider now. People step fully outside instead of pausing in thresholds. The air feels fresher, cooler, as if the night has finally released its last breath. The baker is already working. The oven now holds steady heat, and flat rounds of dough are placed inside with careful hands. The smell of rising bread begins to fill the nearby air, warm and familiar, drifting through narrow paths between homes. A child follows the scent before anything else, drawn gently toward the source without needing to be told where to go. Nearby, water carriers move in steady lines toward the river. Clay jars rest against shoulders, balanced with practiced ease. The riverbank is no longer quiet and empty. It has become a place of early gathering. Soft conversations return. Not loud. Not hurried. Just the quiet return of voices to the world. At the edge of the fields, farmers begin to spread out once again across the land. The soil now glows faintly under the rising light, its dark surface slowly changing color as the sun climbs higher. Tools are lifted. Ropes are adjusted. Animals are guided into place. The day's work resumes not as something new, but as something continued. As if it never fully stopped. The Nile moves beside it all, unchanged in rhythm, carrying the same steady current that has shaped this land since before memory. Small ripples catch the morning light and scatter it across the surface in soft patterns. A fisherman finally casts his net. The motion is smooth, practiced, almost silent. The net opens in the air for a brief moment before touching the water and disappearing beneath the surface. He watches carefully, not with excitement, but with quiet patience. The river will give what it gives. That understanding is constant here. On the riverbank, reeds sway gently in the morning breeze. Birds are now fully awake, calling from above the water and from within the tall grasses. Their movement feels lighter than the human world, as if they belong more to the sky than to the land. Farther inland, canals begin their daily attention once more. Small repairs continue where needed. Water is guided carefully so it reaches the right fields without overflow. A man kneels at the edge of a channel, pressing damp earth into a weak spot along the bank. The work is simple, but it protects everything downstream. In the village, smoke from cooking fires rises more steadily now, blending with the morning light. The smell of bread has grown stronger, and now it carries through every path, every doorway, every corner where people gather briefly before heading out. Life feels fully present again. Not loud, but complete. Inside one home, a mother wraps bread in cloth for a worker leaving early for the fields. She moves without haste, folding the cloth carefully, as if each motion belongs exactly where it is meant to be. The worker takes it with a quiet nod. No long words are needed. Everything is understood. At the granary, activity begins in earnest. Workers arrive in pairs and small groups, their movements organized but calm. They carry baskets, clay seals, and simple tools for measurement. The thick doors of the storage building open slowly, revealing rows of grain inside. The air within is cooler. Still. Protected from the heat outside. A scribe stands nearby, already seated with his reed pen prepared. His eyes move between workers, baskets, and storage bins. Each movement is recorded with steady attention. Numbers become marks. Marks become order. Order becomes memory. Not loud memory. Not dramatic memory. But the quiet record of survival and preparation. Along the river, boats begin to move more frequently now. Some carry fish, some carry grain, others carry people traveling between settlements. The Nile connects everything without effort, like a long living path through the land. A boat drifts past slowly, its wooden frame creaking softly with the current. A man sits at the front, guiding it with a long pole, his movements relaxed and familiar. He does not look far ahead. He does not need to. The river already knows the way. As the sun rises higher, the light becomes warmer, filling the valley with a steady golden presence. Shadows shorten again, but this time they feel less heavy than before. The day is now fully present. And yet, nothing feels abrupt. Everything has arrived gently, step by step, as it always does. In the fields, work continues in the same patient rhythm as before. Seeds, soil, water, and hands move together in patterns that do not change quickly. The land responds in its own time, never rushed, never forced. The people accept this. They have always accepted this. It is part of living beside a river that gives and withdraws in its own ancient rhythm. By now, the village has fully transitioned into its daytime life. Yet even in the brightness, there remains a calmness beneath everything. A sense that nothing is separate. That the river, the fields, the homes, and the people are all part of one continuous cycle. Morning is not an arrival. It is a continuation. And as the Nile flows onward beneath the growing sun, ancient Egypt moves with its steady, quiet, and deeply familiar into another ordinary day shaped by patience, routine, and the soft order of time itself. The day is now fully awake, but it does not feel loud. It feels established. Like a rhythm that has settled into place after many quiet adjustments through dawn. The sun rises higher above the Nile, spreading a steady warmth across the valley. The light is no longer soft at the edges. It is clearer now, stronger, revealing every detail of the land with calm honesty. Mud brick walls show their texture. Palm leaves cast sharp, narrow shadows. The river brightens in long, shifting bands of gold. And everywhere, life continues in its familiar pattern. In the village, the morning work has become steady and organized. There is no longer the hesitation of waking. There is only movement, shaped by habit and necessity. The baker's ovens are fully active now. Bread is removed in batches, each loaf warm and slightly crackling on the outside. The scent travels farther into the streets, reaching even those still finishing their early tasks. Children carry small pieces of bread wrapped in cloth, eating as they walk without stopping. Near the wells and river access points, water carriers continue their steady journeys. Clay jars are filled, lifted, and carried back along paths already softened by repeated footsteps. The ground remembers these routes. It always does. At the edge of the fields, farmers are now fully engaged in work. The earlier calm of preparation has become motion slow, continuous labor that stretches across wide green and brown spaces. Tools press into soil. Animals pull wooden plows in long, patient lines. Hands guide seeds into prepared earth. Every movement feels part of something larger than the moment itself. Nothing is isolated. Everything connects. Along the irrigation canals, maintenance continues in quiet focus. The water here moves with purpose, guided carefully so it reaches every section of farmland that depends on it. A man stands knee-deep in a shallow channel, adjusting the flow by shifting small barriers of mud and reed. He watches the water respond immediately. A slight change upstream becomes a visible shift downstream. This is a language he understands without words. The river speaks through movement. And the land responds through balance. Farther along the Nile, boats move more freely now that the sun is higher. Some carry workers between distant fields and villages. Others transport goods, grain, linen, pottery, each carefully arranged to prevent damage during travel. A merchant sits quietly in one of these boats, watching the shoreline pass. He is not in a hurry. Travel along the river is not measured in urgency, but in passage. The current carries much of the effort. He only guides it. On shore, scribes continue their work in shaded spaces near administrative buildings. The sound of reed pens against papyrus remains soft but constant. Each mark records something: ordinary amounts of grain, names of workers, lists of goods. But together, these records form something essential. A memory that extends beyond any single person. A structure of order built not from stone, but from repetition. In a nearby workshop, potters shape clay that has been softened and prepared since earlier in the day. The wheel turns slowly under careful hands. Each bowl or jar emerges gradually, formed by pressure that is steady rather than forceful. Clay responds only to patience. Too fast, and it collapses. Too rough, and it loses shape. So the work remains gentle, measured, repetitive. In the distance, the sound of chiseling stone can be heard faintly from a construction site. Workers there continue building structures meant to last: storage spaces, walls, and simple public works that support daily life. Dust rises and settles in soft clouds. No one seems bothered by it. It is simply part of the environment. As the sun climbs higher, the heat becomes more noticeable again, but not overwhelming. People adjust naturally. Work slows slightly in exposed areas and continues more steadily in shaded ones. Movement adapts rather than stops. This adaptation is part of the land's long education. The desert teaches endurance. The river teaches timing. Together, they shape a way of life built on balance. In the village, midday approaches quietly. Not announced. Not marked. Only felt in the way shadows shorten and then begin to turn in the opposite direction. Meals are prepared in homes and shared in simple portions. Bread, lentils, vegetables, and dried fish appear again in familiar combinations. Eating is not separate from the day's rhythm, it is part of it. A pause. A reset. Then continuation. After the meal, some rest briefly in shaded courtyards or under palm trees. Others continue working without stopping for long, simply adjusting their pace to the warmth of the day. The river remains constant beside it all. Its surface now reflects a stronger sky, bright and wide, with occasional ripples breaking the reflection into shifting patterns of light. A fisherman pulls in his net again, slower this time, checking its contents with practiced attention. The catch is steady, enough for the day's needs. He nods quietly to himself. No celebration follows. Only acceptance. Enough is sufficient. That understanding repeats across the land in countless small ways. A filled basket. A completed task. A repaired tool. A measured supply of grain. Nothing excessive. Nothing wasted. Just what is needed to continue. As the afternoon begins to form beyond midday, Egypt remains in its steady motion, fields, river, village, and sky all moving together in a quiet alignment that has repeated for generations without interruption. And beneath the strong sun, life continues not as something dramatic or sudden, but as something deeply familiar, shaped by patience, repetition, and the gentle order of ordinary days. The afternoon returns with a slow heaviness, the kind that settles into the land without announcement. The sun now sits high and steady, pouring a strong, even light across the Nile Valley. Shadows grow short again, pressing close beneath walls, beneath tools, beneath the feet of workers who continue their tasks with quiet endurance. The heat is present, but familiar. It is not something to resist. Only something to move with. In the fields, activity continues in a softened rhythm. The earlier energy of morning has become something steadier, more deliberate. Farmers bend and rise in long cycles of motion, their work stretching across wide spaces of cultivated land. The soil feels warm now at the surface, though still cool beneath. It carries the memory of water, of careful irrigation, of earlier seasons when the river once spread its richness across the valley. A man pauses briefly, standing upright and looking across the fields. His hands rest on the handle of his tool. Sweat marks the edge of his linen cloth, but his expression remains calm. There is no urgency in his pause. Only a quiet recognition of time passing. Then he returns to work. Nearby, a woman moves between rows of plants, adjusting small supports and checking the growth of young crops. Her movements are careful, almost gentle, as if the plants themselves require a quiet approach. She brushes dust from a leaf. She checks the soil with her fingertips. She adjusts a small reed stake. Each action is simple. Each action matters. Along the irrigation canals, water continues its slow, guided flow. The channels reflect the bright sky in broken lines of light. Small adjustments made earlier in the day now show their effect, distributing water evenly across the fields. A worker walks barefoot along the edge of the canal, watching carefully for any sign of weakness in the banks. He stops once, presses a small patch of mud into place, then continues walking. This kind of work never truly ends. It only shifts from one section to another. In the village, the midday lull has passed. Activity resumes with a slightly different rhythm than the morning. Not slower, not faster, just adjusted to the heat. Shaded areas become more active again as people move away from direct sunlight. Workshops hum softly with motion. The potter's wheel turns again, though more slowly than before. The carpenter measures wood in the filtered light beneath a canopy. Each tool finds its place in steady repetition. Dust floats in thin, glowing streaks through the air where sunlight passes between structures. It does not feel harsh. It feels like part of the landscape itself, always present, always shifting. Near the river, boats continue to pass in both directions. Some carry goods toward distant villages. Others return empty, ready for the next load. The Nile remains unchanged in its role. It is not just water. It is movement, connection, and passage. A merchant stands at the edge of a small dock, overseeing the unloading of woven baskets filled with grain. His voice is low, giving instructions without raising it beyond the calm atmosphere of the afternoon. The workers respond without haste. Everything is coordinated through familiarity rather than urgency. In a nearby shaded courtyard, a small group gathers for rest. An elderly man sits against a wall, his eyes half closed, listening to the distant sounds of the village. Children sit nearby, drawing shapes in the dust with thin sticks. No one speaks much. The heat encourages stillness. But it is not uncomfortable stillness. It is a shared pause, understood by everyone. Even the river seems quieter in this hour. Its surface smooths under the sun's steady presence, broken only occasionally by the movement of a boat or a passing breeze. A fisherman rests in the shade of his boat, waiting for a better moment to cast again. He does not worry about the passing time. The river has always taught patience better than anything else. Farther inland, scribes continue their records, though now with slower, more deliberate movements. Ink dries quickly in the warm air. Each mark must be placed carefully. Numbers, names, measures of grain, records of trade. Simple details, yet essential to maintaining balance across the land. Without these records, memory would fade too easily. With them, order continues beyond the limits of any single day. As the afternoon begins its gradual turn toward evening, the light changes once more. It grows softer at the edges. Still bright, but no longer sharp. The desert beyond the valley remains still and silent, its vastness untouched by the human rhythm along the river. It watches without change. Endless. Unmoving. In contrast, the Nile continues its gentle movement, carrying life through the center of everything. Villages, fields, boats, canals, all connected through its steady presence. And within this connection, life continues in its familiar cycle. Work, rest, water, bread, movement, stillness. Nothing breaks the pattern. It simply flows forward, as it always has. And as the sun slowly leans toward the western sky, ancient Egypt remains steady beneath it, shaped not by sudden change, but by the quiet endurance of ordinary days lived again and again in the same calm rhythm of the Nile. The sun begins its slow descent toward the western desert, and the valley changes its tone once again. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just quietly, as it always has. Light grows warmer, softer at the edges, spilling across the Nile in long golden reflections that stretch and tremble with every small movement of water. The fields, the villages, and the distant palm trees all seem to soften under this evening glow, as if the land itself is exhaling after a long day. Work slows. Then gently stops. In the fields, farmers stand upright one by one, letting the weight of the day settle into stillness. Tools are lowered carefully into the soil or leaned against wooden posts. There is no rush to leave. Only the familiar awareness that the day has reached its natural end. The earth feels warm beneath their feet. It has carried them once again through another cycle of labor, just as it always does. Along the irrigation canals, the final checks are made. Small adjustments to the water's path are touched one last time before night arrives. Then even these quiet movements fade, and the channels are left to flow on their own through the coming darkness. The river continues beside everything, unchanged in its patient motion. Boats drift toward shore. Nets are gathered. Ropes are tied. The river accepts the end of the day without resistance, carrying the last reflections of sunlight as it always has, and always will. In the village, smoke rises gently from evening fires. It does not rush upward. It lingers, curls, and blends into the fading sky. Bread is shared again. Simple meals are eaten in doorways, courtyards, and rooftops where the air is beginning to cool. Conversations are softer now, shaped more by rest than by instruction. Children sit close to their families, their movements slowing as sleep approaches even before night fully arrives. The day is being put away, piece by piece, in the only way it ever is here, through repetition, care, and quiet acceptance. Inside homes, mats are unrolled. Water jars are placed within reach. Tools are returned to their places. Nothing is left scattered, because even the smallest disorder would feel out of place in a world built on rhythm. Outside, the Nile reflects the deepening sky. The sun lowers further, turning gold into amber, then into soft copper, until finally it rests at the horizon where land and sky meet in silence. For a moment, everything feels suspended again. Like the world remembering its own balance. Then the light slips away. Not as loss, but as completion. Night arrives gently over ancient Egypt. Stars return one by one, as they always do, without hurry or announcement. The river becomes darker, but it continues to move, carrying the memory of the day into the stillness of the night. Villages grow quiet. Fires dim. Voices fade into the soft background of evening. And soon, only the sound of the Nile remains steady, continuous, unchanged. The same river that brought life to the morning now moves through the night without pause. The same fields that were worked under the sun now rest under the stars. The same homes that held morning activity now hold sleeping families in calm darkness. Everything returns to stillness, but nothing is truly gone. It is only resting, waiting for the next return of light. Because in ancient Egypt, the end of the day is never an ending at all. It is only another step in a cycle that has no true beginning and no final conclusion. A cycle of river and soil. Of labor and rest. Of light and darkness. Of ordinary lives lived again and again beside the Nile. And as the night settles fully across the valley, the land remains peaceful, steady, and alive in its quiet order, holding the same rhythm it has carried for centuries, and will continue to carry long after any single day has been forgotten.